Previously famous author Stephen King took a break from being irrelevant to chime in on the latest Marvel news for some reason. In his tweet, he said, "I don't go to MCU movies, don't care for them, but I find this barely masked gloating over the low box office for the Marvels very unpleasant. Why gloat over failure?" He kind of reiterated this in a following tweet later that day by saying, "Some of the rejection of the Marvels may be adolescent fanboy hate. You know, yuck, girls." This got the attention of online media outlets like the Mary Sue, who came out of their cottages deep in the woods to chime in on this because, they can't help themselves but to carry water for Disney. That is, when they're not directly attacking Disney and the company's CEO. So far, audiences and some critics agree that The Marvels is the most fun MCU film in a long time and sets the stage for a bright future for the franchise. That's one way of putting it, considering as of the time of this recording, The Marvels is currently ranked 31st in the MCU movies on Rotten Tomatoes out of 33. Critics' reviews were a little mixed. You can say that again. Mostly due to criticism of the script and villains. That sounds like fair criticism to me. The film raked in $47 million on its opening weekend, which is the lowest opening of any MCU film. It simply had too many things stacked against it, such as superhero fatigue, the SAG-AFTRA strikes, the newness of the characters, and the negativity from sexist trolls. I can't believe they're making these excuses for the movie, but alright, I'm just going to tackle them one at a time. First and foremost, it's not superhero fatigue, it's bad movie fatigue. If the movie was good and it resonated with audiences, then people will come out to support it, even if it's a superhero movie. Case in point, look at Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. That's a superhero movie that came out just a few months ago and was well received amongst audiences and still made a lot of money at the box office. Granted, it didn't do as well as Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 because that came out during the peak of the MCU, but it still made more money than Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, unless the argument is to suggest that superhero fatigue somehow set in between now and the time Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 actually was released, which I don't think that's the argument being made. The SAG-AFTRA strike, which is preventing actors from actually being able to promote the movie. And if that was a valid excuse, then why did Five Nights at Freddy's that just opened up do so well at the box office, actually beating out the Marvels on just a fraction of the marketing budget? All the while, it had to contend with online media outlets actually attacking it, including the Mary Sue itself. The newness of the characters. Having unknown characters is not a factor with this, and if you don't believe me, I'd like to refer you back to Guardians of the Galaxy. At least with this movie, all the leads had a Disney Plus show to establish them prior to their release. I can't say the same thing for Guardians of the Galaxy before the release of that first movie. Negativity from sexist trolls. I don't think fans of the MCU are sexist. There's been lots of popular female characters within the MCU. I mean, you got Scarlet Witch, Gamora, Nebula, Agent Carter. I mean, even Black Widow, who is one of the original members of the Avengers within the MCU. So if fans of Marvel movies are all of a sudden sexist, that would be a new development. The fact of the matter is, this is just a poorly made movie. Plain and simple, and it's kind of understandable considering the director and writers of this haven't really handled anything of this scale in the past. Now, am I blaming them? No, they were given a job on a high-profile movie and were probably paid a lot of money to do this, so yeah, good on them. I have no animosity towards them for doing that. The problem I have is with the studio who actually insisted on making a comic book movie about characters that even fans of the comic book don't really like. Going back to Stephen King's original point, for me it's less gloating about the movie failing and more gloating at the studio in a sort of I told you so kind of way, because going into this movie, everything that we saw in the lead up to it indicated that it was going to be a huge bomb, and yeah, that's exactly what happened. Now, am I happy about that? No, not particularly. I mean, I would have preferred to have been pleasantly surprised and actually enjoyed this movie, but that's not what happened. And for some people thinking that I just want to hate stuff or whatever, look at my videos on this channel, because when Netflix's One Piece was early announced, I was saying that it looked like it was going to be a huge bomb for the company, and come to find out, I actually really enjoyed it and end up recommending it. I would have preferred that to get that out of the Marvels, but that's not what happened with this. So as long as the MCU is going to release stuff that looks like crap, then I'm going to get some amusement out of it, even if it is just laughing at the failure.